revealed how a contractual marriage ignited a surprising love and an unexpected transformation. The moment Sarah stepped into the sterile corridors of the university lab, the weight of her ambition settled heavily on her shoulders. At 35, she was a dedicated medical researcher pushing the boundaries of what healthcare could achieve. But amid the incessant ticking clock of academic expectations, whispers of familial pressure clawed at her independence. Family and friends expected her to settle down, to fulfill the traditional role they believed was right for her. Yet in her heart, Sarah wrestled with the stark contrast between their dreams and her own. Was she failing them, or merely choosing to succeed on her terms? Her peers, elitist and scornful, dismissed her innovative work purely the product of her modest upbringing. What would she know about real science? They mutter, their polished degrees a shield against her pioneering ideas. Their haughty glares ignited a surge of determination within her, an undeniable urge to prove them wrong. But the isolation suffocated her. It was a solitary commitment forged against a sea of competence that felt increasingly insurmountable. Each day, she faced the oppressive scrutiny of professors who dashed her hopes with nothing but their raised eyebrows and condescending tones. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As if guided by fate, Sarah's life took an unexpected detour when Jake entered her world, an easygoing contractor with dreams that mirrored her own but were tangled in the rusted chains of economic struggle. Their contractual marriage blossomed, initially devoid of emotions, merely a financial arrangement. Yet late-night discussions over greasy pizza revealed deeper layers beneath their facades. Laughter mingled with confessions, amid a shared understanding of aspiration rooted in shared adversity. The spark ignited, filling the empty corners of Sarah's heart with warmth. Yet the shadows of her professional life loomed larger. Each interaction with her colleagues tightened the grip of uncertainty around her. But as days passed, Jake faced his own brand of judgment, enduring the condescending dismissals from potential customers who scoffed at his working-class origins. Their shared frustrations drew them closer, but daggers of societal expectations pulled taut the strings of their bond, suffusing the air with undeniable tension. Was their love genuine, or simply a product of convenience founded on struggle? The questions circled indefatigably in Sarah's mind, undermining the fragile trust she had begun to forge. Just as their connection deepened, a dark cloud loomed on the horizon, a family secret long buried. Whispers of corruption, tying Sarah's lineage to the very corporation threatening Jake's small business venture, sliced through the layer of safety they had built. The affection she felt for Jake battled against the loyalty she owed her family, conflicting loyalties ripping her apart. Should she protect her heart or her heritage? The realization twisted knots in her stomach, and as she caught Jake's eye, she wondered if their love could withstand the storm they were about to face. In that charged moment, vulnerability sparked between them. Sarah found herself hovering on the precipice of a decision that could define her future, poised to confront the very values society had instilled in her. As Sarah reached for Jake's hand, determination burning in her eyes, the weight of their choices loomed heavily over them. Would love truly redefine family, or would the scars of the past extinguish their burgeoning connection before it even had a chance to thrive? With the tension crackling in the air between them, Sarah could almost hear the semblance of her family's legacy whispering in her ear, urging her to choose allegiance over affection. Yet, as she held Jake's hand, something shifted within her. The warmth of his palm resonated with a truth she had long buried beneath layers of expectation. Uncertainty danced in the pit of her stomach while the complexities of her world collided violently within her, pressing her to confront the expanding chasm that threatened to swallow them both. "You're not alone in this," Jake said softly, his eyes filled with genuine concern rather than judgment. He spoke as if they were already navigating a future together, and that thought both thrilled and terrified Sarah. Maybe his simple assertion made it clear She did not have to choose between love and family. She simply had to reconcile the two. Perhaps embracing vulnerability could lead to revelations she had yet to discover. Focus shifted as she thought about her research. It had always been her sanctuary, a space where the complications of life faded under the illuminating glow of lab lights and ambitions. Maybe it was time to reinvent that sanctuary, not just as a bastion of solitude, but as a force that could challenge the corrupt legacy looming over them. If she redirected her energy, leveraging her education and experience to unveil the truth hidden within her family's dealings, then she could fortify not just her career, but also their relationship. The gears of strategy began to turn in her mind. If she was to confront this family secret, she needed to dig deeper. Initiating a discreet inquiry into her family's business dealings could yield insights she'd never considered. The potential for conflict surged within her, but it was now laced with purpose. Sarah knew the risks. They'd ostracize her for challenging their long-standing facade. Yet failure to act would leave her complicit in something fundamentally wrong. Tomorrow, I'll crunch the numbers, she resolved internally. The resolve resonated through her, battling against the backdrop of familial pressures. If she could stand tall in the face of her colleagues' scorn, surely she could endure her family's displeasure. But a bigger dilemma clawed at her heart, a realization that revealing the truth might sever ties with her parents. Would they choose family loyalty, or believe in the kinship she had built with Jake? The mere thought of their disappointment sent shivers racing down her spine. They'd never understood the challenges that inextricably linked her identity to her work. The disapproving glances, the cold shoulders, she could almost hear their dismissals echoing in her ears. Yet the escalating tension was suffocating. As her gaze landed on Jake once more, she saw something flicker beyond his warmth: unwavering belief. He was fueled not by pity, but by an understanding that transcended their different worlds. "Whatever you uncover, I'll be right here," he assured her, grounding her in a reality free from judgment. Emboldened by his presence, Sarah felt the rush of ambition intertwined with fear, a potent cocktail pushing her towards the edge of personal growth. She realized that to redefine her life, she needed to dismantle the inherited expectations that tethered her. That was the essence of transformation, compelling herself to choose the uncomfortable truth over comforting ignorance. "Tomorrow begins a new chapter," she whispered, pulling away from Jake's grasp momentarily, the decision lighting a fire within her. Yet as she walked away, the echoes of unresolved tension and looming familial strife taunted her, a stark reminder of the challenges yet to come. With resolve fueling her steps, Sarah passionately double-checked her notes and equipment that night, ready to dive into her research. Little did she know that the closer she ventured to unraveling her family's secret, the more perilous her own journey through ambition, love, and loyalty would become. The intricate web of truth and betrayal was only beginning to unfold. What awaited her might not just redefine who she was, but the very fabric of her family's legacy itself. In the shadows of her aspirations, a reckoning brewed, and it was time to face the echoes of her lineage head-on. As she turned to face the lab, a wave of apprehension flooded over her. Was she truly prepared for the depths of what she might uncover? The morning light would soon herald significant choices, but at what cost would transformation come? The sun pierced through the lab windows, casting sharp lines of light that danced across Sarah's cluttered workbench. Thoughts raced through her mind as she prepared her research materials. Each piece of data felt heavy with promise and peril. The looming uncertainty of what she might discover about her family's empire hung like a storm cloud above her. She logged into her computer, fingers hesitating for just a moment over the keys. The glow of the screen illuminated the determined lines on her brow, mirroring the internal battle within. Questions spiraled. What had her family hidden? Would her findings deliver the clarity she craved or shatter her perception of her lineage? Before the sun had fully set, she was deep in her analysis. As numbers and charts filled the screen, an unfamiliar clarity took hold, a reassurance that stemmed from her decision to confront the truth. Her heart raced at the potential revelations swirling around her. She could finally apply the skills she had cultivated for years towards something profound and potentially transformative. Yet, as the hours ticked away, Her excitement was tethered by the dissonance of familial loyalty. Each discovery seemed a step further away from the comforting warmth of her parents' expectations. The juxtaposition of love and legacy became sharper with every click of her mouse. A part of her cringed at the thought of revealing her findings to Jake, fearing that he would suddenly understand the limitations he'd unknowingly placed on her. If she stumbled upon the very secrets that had constructed her family's reputation, would he still see her as his partner or recoil in horror? With every data point she analyzed, Sarah felt her resolve crystallizing. She wasn't merely working to uncover her family's secrets. This was a deeper rally against complacency, not just for herself, but for the world that hadn't seen the shadows lurking beneath her family name. Each revelation transformed the data on her screen into a personal mission grounded in integrity and authenticity. As she worked late into the night, she paused for a moment, reflecting on Jake's unwavering support. His belief in her served as a lighthouse, guiding her through the mental fog. What would he say if he knew what she was about to plunge into? Would his commitment to her remain intact when faced with the looming ethical abyss? Then a sudden thought grabbed hold. Maybe she could enlist him as an ally, rather than a source of anxiety. The idea sparked a mixture of urgency and longing, a chance to share the weight of this journey. Together, they could unearth the truth without her feeling as if she was jumping into the unknown alone. But was she truly prepared to involve him, with the understanding that it could irrevocably alter their dynamic? The precariousness of that decision rattled her even further. The desire to share her fears battled fiercely with her independence, and something inside demanded she hold her ground, protect her findings as if they were a sacred truth. When she pulled her eyes away from the screen, she realized how late it had grown. The lab was silent, save for the faint hum of machinery that mirrored the static in her thoughts. The flicker of unease crept back into her mind. Doubt coiled tightly around her ambition. Could she balance the potential fallout with the hope of revelation and change? With a heavy heart, she made a resolution. Tomorrow, she would invite Jake into the fold. This endeavor was no longer just about her. It demanded collaboration, trust, and likely, some form of healing for both of them. As she gathered her notes to head home, a fresh surge of determination coursed through her veins. Tomorrow held the potential for alliances to shift, for truths to emerge, and for a budding relationship to prove its resilience against the storm brewing on the horizon. Resolved, she stepped out of the lab, the night air cool against her skin, each breath a reminder that transformation was not simply a choice. It was a call to action. Just beyond the threshold of the lab lay the world, filled with the unknown, and she was ready to confront it head-on. Yet, deep within her, an unsettling thought spiraled as she locked the door behind her. What if her pursuit for truth hidden within family ties led to unforeseen consequences that could sever the bonds she cherished? The anticipation loomed heavy, foreshadowing the crossroads that awaited her. What awaited her in the morning might not only threaten her family legacy, but could also redefine the future she envisioned with Jake. Tomorrow would test them both in ways they hadn't yet imagined. As the first rays of dawn broke through her bedroom window, Sarah's heart raced, anticipation flooding her veins. The night had been restless. Sleep eluded her as her mind churned with the weight of her impending conversation with Jake. Today marked a pivotal moment in her life, one that demanded strength and vulnerability in equal measure. She slipped out of bed, the cool wooden floor grounding her as she prepared both mentally and physically for what lay ahead. In the bathroom mirror, her reflection stared back, a mix of resolve and fear evident in her eyes. With each small routine gesture, she grappled with the implications of what revealing the truth could mean for her career and her relationship. The stakes had never felt higher. As she brushed her teeth, the soft thud of her heart echoed in her ears, amplifying her thoughts. A voice whispered a challenge. Are you ready to sacrifice the familiar for the unknown? Once she was ready, she grabbed her laptop and headed into the kitchen where Jake was already brewing coffee. The aroma wafted through the air, a comforting reminder of mornings spent together in simple routines. Jake turned to her, flashing that warm smile that made her heart flutter, yet uncertainty knotted in her stomach. She could sense, even in the casual atmosphere, that today was different. Something on your mind? He asked, his brow furrowing with concern as he poured her a cup. Yeah, Actually, there is, she replied, attempting to sound more composed than she felt, but failing to mask the tremor in her voice. Can we talk about something serious? Jake set down the coffee pot and turned fully towards her, the informal warmth of the moment giving way to palpable tension. Yeah, of course. What is up? With the first tentative sip of coffee, Sarah wrestled the internal battle raging inside her. How much to reveal? Would dragging him into this whirlwind strengthen their bond or fracture the very foundation of their partnership? The complexity of her familial secrets felt heavier than any scientific inquiry she had ever tackled. Remember when I mentioned my research? She started, echoing her earlier commitment to transparency. Jake nodded, a serious look on his face. I've been digging into our family's history for a paper, but it's turned into something far deeper than that. Jake leaned in closer, his focus sharp and unwavering. What do you mean? Swallowing her fear, she laid out the revelations she had unearthed, the ethical dilemmas, the looming shadows of her family's empire. Each word felt like an anchor, weighing her down, but also liberating her from the fear of secrecy. She described potential illegal dealings and the impact it could have on their future together. As she spoke, she observed every nuance of Jake's expression: bewilderment, compassion, anger, processing. When she finished, a heavy silence enveloped them. You're serious, he finally said, his voice low and steady. Yeah, I am. And I want you to be a part of this. I don't want to face it alone. The gravity of her revelation hung in the air as Jake searched her eyes for underlying intentions. You realize this could change everything for us? I know, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But I can't do it if it means losing who I am or you. I need to know we're in this together. His eyes softened as he processed the implications of her words. As partners, Sarah. But we could be venturing into murky waters. The edge of uncertainty fluttered in her chest. The question now lay bare. Would they be able to navigate the complexities of truth together, or would this journey fracture their foundation? She could feel the tension coursing between them, amplifying the stakes of what lay ahead as they stood at the precipice of transformation, with emotions simmering in the space between them. The unknown called louder than ever before. Would their partnership emerge resilient from the storms ahead, or would the shadows of her family's past eclipse the love they had built? As she leaned into the moment, ready to confront whatever came next, Sarah's phone buzzed ominously on the countertop. It was an email notification, a message from her family's legal counsel. The subject line sent a wave of ice through her veins. Urgent, viable evidence of legacy issues. The shadows of the past were stirring, pushing them toward a confrontation that could unravel everything. Sarah felt a mixture of dread and determination. The journey for truth had only just begun, and the real test of their relationship was poised on the brink. The email notification blared like an alarm in a silent room. Sarah's heart raced, a pulsing reminder of the gravity of the moment. With trembling fingers, she opened the email. The words blurred for an instant, shadows of her family's legacy already pressing on her consciousness. Gripping her phone tighter, she tried to steady her breathing. She had shared her reality with Jake. Now she was faced with another layer of her truth, one tactically concealed, yet now impossible to ignore. Sarah? Jake's cautious voice broke through her fog. His concern layered the air with unspoken tension, an echo of everything that lay ahead. She locked eyes with him, words dicing her thoughts into fragments. Jake, it's from the legal counsel. They found something significant, she managed to say, her voice strained. The implications of this message wrapped around her like creeping vines, drawing her deeper into trepidation. This was more than family drama. It was a professional landmine. Jake stepped closer, his expression shifting to a mingling of confusion and urgency. What did they discover? Swallowing hard, she began to relay the specifics. Documents indicating potential breaches of ethical conduct, contracts shrouded in ambiguity, and a summary of the risks her family enterprise faced. With each word, she could feel the weight of expectations heaped on her, expectations forged by bloodlines and corporate ambitions. As she recounted the details, Sarah found herself straddling two worlds. The one in which she had built her identity as a serious researcher and an individual determined to expose the shadows of her past, and another forged by familial ties threatening to encase her in their demands. Thoughts spiraled, questioning whether addressing these issues would empower her or doom her to be shadowed by them forever. Okay, but what do you intend to do? Jake asked, grounding her back to the present. His proposition held a blend of concern and practicality, twisting the narrative toward resolution, however uncertain it felt. What was she prepared to do, indeed? I want to confront this. Face it head on, she declared, her voice finding a new steadiness. Jake nodded, but apprehension clouded his eyes. And if you're attacked, if they retaliate? The scenario ignited fear in her chest. Suddenly, she was not just Sarah, the ambitious researcher. She was the fragile daughter of a potentially corrupt dynasty. I guess I'll need to prepare, she said, each word revealing a deeper determination, but mixing fear with courage. Glimpses of her academic training flickered in her mind. She was no longer approaching this simply as an academic thesis, but as a battlefield for her identity and integrity. The journey would demand everything from her full vulnerability, the very principles she had sought to uphold in her research. The implications of transparency and its costs were now more palpable than ever. Then let us create a plan, Jake urged, stepping into this newfound partnership with her. We do this together. His steadfastness felt like an anchor in uncharted waters, yet the heavy rain clouds of potential conflict brewed on the horizon. They quickly decided to meticulously gather more research, leverage legal support, and prepare to craft a narrative that could either heal or further complicate their already delicate situation. As they set to work, Sarah felt a surge of clarity wash over her. Each action brought a sense of empowerment, a small victory in asserting her agency amidst unavoidable consequences. The transformation was daunting, yet thrilling, an awakening of the resolve she had nearly lost beneath the shadows of deceit and familial governance. However, even as they plowed ahead, doubts looped like a melody. The legacy had teeth, jagged and keen, waiting to bite back. An ominous feeling crackled in the air, urging her to question if this moment of fortitude would lead her closer to freedom or deeper into entanglements she couldn't escape. Then, as she reviewed their plans, her phone buzzed again, a text from an unknown number, unsettling in its suddenness. The message read, "You don't know what you're getting into. Stay away, or you'll regret it." Her mind swirled with dread and curiosity as the world around her seemed to twist and pulse like a living thing, the stakes climbing higher with each moment. Would her determination to unveil the truth redefine her life, or would it lead her down a more dangerous path? The tension was palpable as Sarah stared at her phone, the stark blue message looming large in her mind. Each word reverberated like a drumbeat in her ears, urging her to make a choice, one that could either tether or liberate her. She anointed her fears with a shake of her head, pushing against the rising tide of anxiety that threatened to drown her conviction. "I can't back down now," she whispered, almost as a mantra. Jake's eyes pierced through her tumult, reflecting a mixture of concern and unwavering support. "What do you want to do about it?" His voice was calm, a stark counter to the emotional tempest swirling around them. It was what she needed. He was not just a sounding board. He was a lifeline. "I want to find out who sent it," she answered, her resolve solidifying under the weight of the implications. "This isn't just a warning. It's a message embedded with fear. Fear can signal vulnerability, and vulnerability is dangerous." Jake sat back, a flicker of admiration crossing his features. "And that's what they want. They want you to feel afraid and to retreat. But outfear the fear." He leaned closer, his voice dipping into a conspiratorial tone. "We'll dig deeper. You have connections, people who will help." The thought ignited something within her. It was time to stop being an outsider looking in. If this was a family legacy fraught with shadows of betrayal, she would illuminate them. Gathering a strategic plan became her new moonlight, guiding them through the murky depths of uncertainty. "Let us sketch out a list of contacts who can assist." They began brainstorming, creating a constellation of resources that could serve as their allies. The familiar thrill of research coursed through her veins, invoking memories of her academic days where she thrived in environments dense with inquiry. However, alongside this thrill was the unmistakable dread of potential retaliation from her family. Legal bombardments, public backlash, these consequences raced through her mind like wild horses. Could she endure that kind of pressure, the brutal scrutiny that would ensue? if anyone discovered her intentions? When she glanced at Jake, all those moments of solidarity forged through research and discussion wrapped around her like a warm blanket. He was the embodiment of partnership and shared mission. We're doing this together, she reassured herself, but also him. Their collective strength made the daunting task seem less like a solitary climbing of Mount Everest and more akin to scaling a steep hill together. As the night unfolded, Sarah immersed herself in research techniques, digging into industry publications, talking to discreet contacts, and poring over what information she could find associated with her family's dealings. The sheer complexity bogged her down. Each layer revealed more darkness and ambiguity. The company had mastered the art of obfuscation, and navigating through it proved challenging. Jake, working beside her, showcased unexpected talents as he adeptly navigated legal texts, identifying potential chinks in the foundation upon which her family had built its empire. He possessed an ability to decipher intricate details that ordinary eyes often missed, a hidden competency she hadn't fully recognized until now. Yet with every revelation, a profound realization lingered. Each piece of information unveiled a capacity for resilience far greater than she had known. The more they unearthed, the more Sarah felt empowered. Secrets had a weight, transactional and emotional, and she was ready to carry that burden. Even so, the warning from the anonymous text hung heavily on her consciousness. It twisted and turned in her thoughts, a reminder of the precariousness of her situation. Just as fatigue began to set in, an email notification blinked across her screen. Curiosity thrummed through her veins. She hesitated, but as she clicked it open, her breath caught in her throat. The message contained details of a hidden contract, one that hinted at business transactions her family had never intended to disclose. What lay beneath the surface threatened to fracture her identity completely. Unraveling this contract might open wounds she was unprepared to confront, but pausing now would grant her enemies the upper hand. As her heart raced, Sarah felt the fluid balance of risk and reward shift beneath her feet. Could she tip the scale? Would this be the revelation that set her on a path toward reclamation or a plunge into irrevocable chaos? The moment of truth was nearing, and the shadows of her family's legacy were not the only danger lurking ahead. In the stillness, a new message notification chimed, a text from Jake. It read, "Sarah, you need to see this. It's about the contract. There's someone on the inside." As her pulse quickened, a sense of dread washed over her. Would this inside connection propel her forward, or would it strip away the last vestige of safety she clung to? The light from her computer screen illuminated the anxiety etched on Sarah's face. She sat up straighter, sensing urgency in Jake's message. Who could be this insider, and what did they know? The details of the hidden contract flashed through her mind like lightning, sharp and electrifying. Time felt suspended as she drafted her response with trembling fingers. "Meet me at our usual spot," she typed, her heart racing with anticipation and dread. As they arrived at the cafe, the hum of conversation faded, and all she could focus on was the upcoming discussion that could irrevocably alter her path. She spotted Jake already seated at a table by the window, his brow furrowed in thought. When he noticed her, his expression softened, and she felt a microscopic relief wash over her. "What did you find?" she asked, immediately blurring the lines of pleasantries in her eagerness. Jake exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I managed to get a name, Tina Caldwell. She works as an associate in the legal department. Apparently, she's seen the documents you mentioned. If we play it right, she might share more." Sarah leaned in, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You did well, Jake. But how do we trust her? What if she is working for my family?" Jake shifted uneasily, considering. "That's a risk we'll have to weigh carefully. I'm not suggesting we blindly rely on her. We need a strategy to leverage whatever she knows while protecting ourselves." Her mind raced, weighing the importance of information against betrayal. The prospect of opening a dialogue with someone inside her family's structure was both terrifying and exhilarating. This was a challenge not only to gather evidence, but also to reshape her identity within a legacy steeped in secrecy. With clarity beginning to gleam through the glowing haze of uncertainty, Sarah suggested, "Let us approach it as a quiet inquiry. We don't reveal our intentions or ourselves right away. Let us find out what she values, her motivations and fears." Jake nodded, impressed at her tactical shift. Exactly. Your family's history has created an environment of fear. We need to turn that fear back to our advantage. Upon leaving the cafe, Sarah felt a burgeoning confidence, less of a disguised person and more of a participant in her destiny. What if we frame our questions around the implications of the contract? Position it in a way that engages her interest, she proposed. Yes. Draw her in, but don't let her draw us out, he affirmed, his enthusiasm matching hers. As they made their way back to her apartment, a growing sense of empowerment enveloped Sarah. She had taken the first steps in reclaiming her narrative, adopting new strategies that aligned with her evolving sense of agency. This commitment to act beyond the passive acceptance of her circumstances was liberating. Yet, beneath the surface, doubts still churned. Encountering Tina wouldn't merely be an exchange of information. It would be a confrontation with the unhealthy boundaries set by her family. Would she have the fortitude to challenge her upbringing, to unravel more than just the business dealings? The thought loomed ominously. What if those dealings were only the beginning of an even deeper betrayal? Suddenly, the day's intensity crescendoed as they reached her apartment, and the reminder of her phone chimed again. A notification buzzed with fervor, catching her breath anew. It was from an unknown number. You shouldn't have gone digging, Sarah. Some secrets are meant to stay buried. The insidious weight of the message clouded her newfound resolve. Tension flooded back into her thoughts, igniting the nagging fear she had worked so hard to set aside. What's wrong? Jake asked, sensing the shift in her demeanor as she struggled to process the implications swirling within her. Holding the phone tightly, Sarah met Jake's concerned gaze. This moment promised a turning point, but it remained dangerously poised on the precipice of revelation, her heart echoing a single thought: would this be the beginning of truth, or the end of everything she thought she knew? Her pursuit for clarity was no longer just about contracts and family secrets. It was about reclaiming her life from the shadows. But as she braced herself for the inevitable confrontation, the question that pulsed through her veins remained haunting. Could she face the truths waiting in the dark, or would those same truths consume her? Jake's hand brushed against hers, grounding her amidst the storms. In that fragile moment, collective determination hung between them, a prelude to impending confrontation. A dark inquiry awaited, and soon, she would need to confront the person hiding in the shadows, the one threatening her quest for freedom. As the night deepened, Sarah steeled herself for what lay ahead. She had made her choice. Now, how far was she willing to go for the truth? The evening shadows enveloped the apartment as Sarah pondered the message's ominous threat. Each tick of the clock amplified her anxiety, drilling into her resolve like a hammer. She was acutely aware that this was not merely about uncovering secrets anymore. It was about defining who she really was, regardless of the confines of her family's grasp. Jake, I can't just ignore this message. I need to confront it, she said, her voice wavering between determination and trepidation. Confront it how? Jake asked, careful to read the urgency in her eyes. This isn't a game. We need to think before we act. I know, but if I'm going to talk to Tina, I can't go in terrified. I need to own this, to show her I'm not just a cog in my family's machinery. I want her to see that I'm choosing my own path, Sarah replied, her heart pounding with each syllable. Jake studied her, weighing her words. So, we need to plan a series of questions, a way to reconnect with her personal motivations. But keep it light. No heavy confrontations immediately. You need to appear non-threatening. A flicker of doubt the size of a tidal wave crashed against Sarah's newfound confidence. What if she turns us away? What if she doesn't trust me? She felt her muscles tense, preparing for a fight that was not yet tangible. Those questions gnawed at her, rooted deeply in the anxieties of her upbringing, where rejection was a punishment she had learned to dread. I know you. You're not someone who takes no for an answer. Show her what you've learned, Jake encouraged, his unwavering belief in her igniting a spark within her. What had she learned? Slowly, a quiet practice of self-efficacy began to surface. She thought of the repertoire of tactics they had developed together. Parsing emotions, reading situations, and strategically leveraging power dynamics all seemed like natural extensions of her burgeoning confidence. Okay, she said finally, her voice growing steadier. I'll frame it as a discussion about her own aspirations. Let her see there's potential in this for her too. but I might need your help with details about the contract itself. Jake nodded. We can do that. But remember, the big picture here is you. This is about you standing tall against your obstacles. Whether it's Tina or your family, you have to be ready to project who you want to become. As they organized their thoughts, Sarah found a sense of rhythm emerging, orchestrating her approach in a way that subtly aligned her goals with those of the person she was about to meet. The anticipation of this upcoming conversation transformed her fear into a mission. It was not merely about the contract anymore. It would be about engaging in a dialogue that could redefine her identity amidst familial pressure. Rising to prepare, she moved through the space of her apartment with intent. Each item she touched, the mug, the notebook, the pen, felt charged with the energy of her commitment to evolve. She chose her attire with care, opting for something that spoke of confidence without overstepping the bounds of professionalism. It was an expression of her reclaimed agency. Hours later, standing before the mirror, reflecting on not just her outward appearance, but the inner resolve growing beneath the surface, Sarah realized the true metamorphosis. She was no longer just a participant in a family game. She was taking a stand. This was not about revenge, it was about self-definition.as. She pulled her phone from her pocket to review her notes one last time. The weight of the earlier message lingered, but did not overwhelm. What if confronting truth means risking everything? She whispered to herself. In that moment of introspection, she knew the next step was pivotal, set against the twilight of her old self. Everything would change, but it was up to her to decide how. Jake met her gaze, and the air thickened with potential. Are you ready? Taking a deep breath, she felt the time had come to embrace the fight for her life and her narrative. Yes, the time has come to face the truth head-on. And just then, she realized there were darker elements lurking, shadows yet to be unveiled. The deeper she dug, the more intricate the web of deceit appeared. Could she handle what awaited her there? As they stepped out of the apartment into the night, Sarah felt the pulse of possibility, but also the distant echo of fear. It resonated within her like a whispered warning. What truly lay ahead was yet to be discovered, and she was prepared to unearth every hidden truth. With a clenched fist, she set her course for confrontation, the nights swallowing their shadows as they ventured into the unknown. The streets felt both foreign and familiar as Sarah and Jake navigated their way to the cafe where they were to meet Tina. Each step pulled Sarah deeper into a realm where her old self clashed with the new identity she was struggling to forge. She could hear the chaotic hum of conversation, the clinking of cups, but all of it seemed to fade into a distant murmur, overshadowed by her racing thoughts. What if she dismisses everything? What if all of this is too much? Flashes of self-doubt surged, threatening to ensnare her in fear. Yet, beneath that flicker of insecurity sat an ember of determination. She kept reminding herself of the stakes. Not just the potential contract, but the very essence of who she was becoming. Upon entering the cafe, the familiar aroma of coffee awakened something inside her, a reminder of how much she had missed these simple moments. Instead of retreating to old fears, she focused on her ability to control this narrative. She felt the weight of anticipation alight on her shoulders. The air buzzed with energy, and for the first time, she cherished the thrill rather than feared it. They found a corner table, and as she settled into the seat, she practiced deep breaths to steady her pulse. Jake offered an encouraging nod, a silent agreement that this was her moment. She glanced at her reflection in the cafe window. She didn't see the girl entangled in family obligations. She saw a woman ready to carve her own path. Minutes felt like hours before Tina arrived. As she approached, Sarah's heart raced. Tina was an embodiment of success, dressed effortlessly in confidence. But Sarah couldn't let that intimidate her. She had her own power to wield. "Hey, Sarah. It's been a while," Tina greeted, a smile lighting up her features. Sarah stood, faking the ease she desperately wanted to feel, and shook her hand with a firm grip. "Thanks for meeting us. I wanted to discuss some ideas about the contract." Sarah began, her carefully prepared opening statement restless on her tongue, feeling both inviting and strategically calculated. "Of course. Let us hear it," Tina replied, signaling for the server. With her attention split, this was exactly the chance Sarah needed. As they delved into the discussion, Sarah could feel Jake, ever watchful, reviewing her hand gestures and facial cues, ready to chime in when necessary. Each question she posed to Tina emerged with more clarity than she anticipated. What do you envision for this project? What does success look like for you? She could sense the shift. Tina leaned in, brow furrowing in thought. There was more to this conversation than a mere contract. It was an opportunity to connect, to uncover mutual aspirations. For each insightful answer Tina gave, Sarah's confidence seemed to swell. By framing her inquiries around Tina's ambitions, she was subtly inviting her to invest in the collaboration more personally. It was a strategy born of keen observation and the understanding that everyone responds to acknowledgement of their worth. As Tina shared her visions and hesitations, Sarah realized she had a knack for steering dialogues, an ability she had always overlooked. But with each exchanged word, the back of her mind quivered. Was this enough? What would happen when they approached the tougher questions surrounding the family influence? Feeling the heat rise in her chest, she knew the confrontation was inevitable. She had to balance the ongoing interaction's warmth with the cold truths she needed to address. That a soft chuckle from Jake interrupted Sarah's thoughts, breaking the momentary tension. You both speak the same language, he remarked. Tina's laughter filled the gaps of uncertainty, but Sarah's focus sharpened. There was a vulnerability underlying the facade of confidence. She could sense Tina's fear of failure lurking behind the ambition. Your passion for this project is palpable, Tina, Sarah interjected. But is this truly what you want, or is it what others expect from you? It was a risky dive, but something in Sarah compelled her to push further, to peel back even more. Layers. This was more than business. It was a shared human experience. Tina's laughter faded as she hesitated, caught off guard. I guess I'm still figuring that out, she admitted, her gaze drifting momentarily, as if contemplating her own reflection. In that moment, Sarah felt her purpose solidify further. She was no longer just advocating for a contract. She was carving a space for truth and authenticity. The stakes of the conversation began to crystallize, not merely the contract or familial expectations, but the future of who each of them would become through this alliance. Just as she was about to guide the conversation into deeper waters, Tina's phone buzzed insistently on the table. She picked it up, her eyes narrowing as she read the message. I need to take this, she said, her voice suddenly strained. Sarah's heart sank. In that instant, she understood all too well the fragility of this connection they had begun to forge and the barriers that still loomed ahead. What news awaited Tina? Would it shatter the moment they had constructed together? As Tina walked away, Sarah exchanged a glance with Jake, an unspoken understanding passing between them. We need to be prepared for anything, she whispered, feeling an eerie foreshadowing of events yet to unfold. What truths lay ahead, hidden behind unexpected obstacles? As the tension of the room thickened, Sarah braced herself, knowing deep down that their journey was just beginning, and the unveiling of darker realities was imminent. The cafe's atmosphere hummed with distant conversations, yet Sarah's focus was acute. The conversation with Tina had ignited a flicker of hope and empowerment. Even in the face of uncertainty, she felt solid in her determination. Every question she had skillfully navigated had drawn out genuine engagement. Yet doubt still perched, whispering fears of inadequacy as she awaited Tina's return. When Tina finally resurfaced, her smile hesitated before reappearing, a mask barely concealing the tension that lingered. I'm sorry. Family matters, you know. Tina's voice, layered with unease, resonated a familiar chord. That S when Sarah realized they were bonded not just through ambition, but through shared burdens. This connection defined a profound moment, leading Sarah to embrace the shadow of her familial legacy instead of fleeing from it. About that contract Sarah started, her intention igniting with purpose. There are elements we need to discuss. Vital information that could reshape the framework of everything your team envisions. With that statement, she wove the path forward toward the core truth lurking beneath the surface, the family interests that affected Tina's dreams, enmeshing them both in ways she hoped to navigate delicately. Tina nodded, her initial rigidity releasing bit by bit as Sarah laid out the potential implications of the hidden contract and its ties to ethical dilemmas. Each word painted a picture dripping with urgency, a plea for transparency not just in business, but in personal aspirations. What are we risking here? Tina asked, her voice barely above a whisper. eyebrows arched in both skepticism and intrigue. "I guess that depends on what type of future you envision," Sarah replied, her voice steady. She could see Tina grappling with the implications of a woman torn between the chains of expectation and the wings of freedom. "It's about building something that holds integrity, rather than perpetuating a legacy that decays from within." The intensity of the cafe heightened as they spoke. Their surroundings faded to the backdrop of their shared ambitions. It was crucial to weave that integrity into every layer of their working relationship, reaffirming their individual selves against family pressures. "And how do we ensure that our paths don't cross into dangerous territory?" Tina questioned, her eyes meeting Sarah's intensely, seeking genuine conviction. Sarah paused, feeling the weight of unspoken challenges. This was where her resolve would be tested. By establishing a foundation rooted in authenticity, she replied earnestly. She realized that she had shifted from merely seeking a contractual partnership to building a deeper alliance predicated on honesty and mutual respect. As they delved into specifics, Sarah allowed herself to reflect on the metamorphosis she'd undergone through this process. Where once she found herself courting hesitation, now she embraced courage deeply intertwined with vulnerability. Tina's initial skepticism had transformed into palpable anticipation, a revival not just of hopes, but of dreams. Eventually, as the dialogue wound down, their emerging collaboration forged a connection that felt empowering for both. With each shared conviction, Sarah felt the chains of familial expectations loosening their grip. The true legacy she chose to cultivate began with authenticity. This was the realization that had eluded her for years. Tina's final question lingered in the air. "You're ready for this?" And for the first time, Sarah answered without hesitation. More than ever, that simple phrase sealed the pact between them, a commitment to navigate the stormy waters of ethics and ambition together. With their paths now intricately linked, Sarah's heart swelled with the realization of her growth. She was no longer the girl confined by her family's legacy, but a woman actively reshaping her narrative, pivoting away from obligations and stepping boldly into her entitlements. The journey ahead would be complex and filled with unforeseen challenges, but together they had ignited a spark capable of illuminating the darkest corners of familial deceit, confronting the very foundations that had always defined her. Standing outside the cafe, she breathed in the crisp air, uncoiling the tension that clung to her spirit. As she looked at Jake, the partnership that had sprouted from a contractual arrangement into so much more resonated deeply between them. "We did it," she declared, her voice steady. As the worries of the past fell away, she was ready to embrace the unpredictable road ahead. "Yeah, we did," Jake replied, his presence solid and reassuring. As they stood arm in arm beneath the glow of urban lights, Sarah felt a deep-seated clarity wash over her. Not for the first time, she recognized the inherent power of choice, the raw ability to redefine one's path through courage, truth, and the enduring strength of authentic connections. She had conquered the shadows of her lineage, living testament to her growth, ready to conquer whatever lay ahead. If you made it this far, you need to subscribe now to the channel to support our journey through emotional stories like this. Leave a like now to force the algorithm to share this journey with others. Comment your reactions and theories about the revelations today. Your insights truly matter. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second.